The ground can crack open to reveal entire lost cities. Earthquakes have acted as nature's accidental archaeologists, exposing hidden worlds beneath our feet. From the buried streets of ancient Rome to the forgotten capitals under modern Beijing, these violent events have rewritten our history books. You are about to see the most astonishing discoveries, learn the science of how the Earth gives up its secrets, and grasp what these lost cities reveal about human ingenuity. By the end, you will understand how disaster can be a brutal form of creation. Why do civilizations build layer upon layer? And what does a tremor from the past tell us about our future? How does it change your view of the ground you stand on to know an entire metropolis might sleep just beneath it? In 2011, the city of Christchurch, New Zealand, was shattered by a powerful earthquake. Amid the devastation, a strange and beautiful phenomenon occurred. The violent shaking churned the earth, bringing to the surface a trove of ancient Maori tools and artifacts, treasures that had been sleeping deep underground for centuries. This event perfectly illustrates a startling geological truth. Earthquakes can act as nature's most powerful and most accidental archaeologists. The fundamental principle is one of immense force. Seismic waves radiate out from a fault line, their energy capable of collapsing modern buildings while simultaneously shifting vast quantities of soil. This movement can peel back the upper layers of the earth, exposing the buried histories that lie beneath. As expert geologist Dr. Ken Hudnut explains, earthquakes do not just break the ground, they can turn it like a page in a history book, revealing chapters we never knew existed. For such a revelation to happen, specific conditions must align. It requires active fault lines, a particular soil composition like soft silt or sand, and crucially, a modern city built directly over an ancient settlement. This combination makes certain world capitals prime locations for these unplanned excavations. One of the most critical processes is called liquefaction. During intense shaking, water-saturated soil can temporarily lose its strength and behave like a liquid. Solid ground literally turns to quicksand, causing heavier objects to sink and often forcing lighter, buried artifacts upward toward the surface. This is not random destruction, but a complex and precise interaction between natural force and historical preservation. It makes you wonder, does our modern engineering, designed to protect us from tremors, also inadvertently seal these historical treasures away even deeper? This dynamic creates a fascinating paradox, where the same force that brings ruin can also bring revelation. This paradox leads us directly to the story of the first great ancient capital where this incredible phenomenon was witnessed on a monumental scale. In 1703, a tremendous earthquake shook the very foundations of Rome. Near the ancient Forum, a building crumbled, and in its collapse, it revealed something astonishing. The ground had opened to show a perfectly preserved Roman street from the 4th century, a hidden world frozen in time. This was the moment the modern world first glimpsed the true depth of the city beneath the city. It demonstrated a fundamental truth about ancient Rome. Instead of clearing away the old, its inhabitants often simply built new structures directly on the rubble of the old, whether after a great fire or an invasion. Over centuries, this created a deep historical record known as Roman stratigraphy, where layers of civilization accumulated like pages in a book. As archaeologist Dr. Giulia Bizzarri explains, Rome is a palimpsest. Each tremor erases a little of the modern to show the ancient script beneath. The earthquake of 1703 peeled back one of those pages, revealing an unparalleled snapshot of daily life. Explorers found intact insulae, the crowded apartment blocks where most Romans lived. They discovered tabernae, the small shops that lined the streets, their counters still in place as if waiting for customers. They even found early Christian meeting places hidden away, and personal graffiti scratched into the walls, the voices of ordinary people echoing across the centuries. This single event forced a complete re-evaluation of Roman urban development. It showed that the city's history was not one of clean breaks and new beginnings, but of continuous, messy, and resilient habitation. What does it mean for our own identity when we learn that our modern capitals are literally constructed upon the intact homes and streets of our ancestors? The story of Rome reveals a profound pattern of urban recycling, a theme of rebirth from rubble that we will see repeated as our journey moves eastward. The tragedy of the 1999 Izmit earthquake in Turkey was profound, with tens of thousands of lives lost and entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Yet from this devastation emerged a ghostly tableau. Amid the shattered concrete of modern apartments, the ground had shifted to reveal something entirely unexpected: the ancient marble columns and cobbled streets of Nicomedia. This was no ordinary ruin. It was a former capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, a city that had once rivaled Rome itself in importance. The surreal sight of contemporary wreckage lying directly beside ancient stone perfectly captures the deep, layered history of Anatolia. This land has always been a crossroads, a stage upon which empires from the Hittites and Greeks to the Romans and Ottomans have built their great capitals, each new civilization constructing its foundations upon the last. As historian Dr. Selim Özkan observes, in Turkey, every dig, whether by shovel or quake, reveals a new layer of the human story. The force that makes this possible is the North Anatolian Fault, a massive fracture in the Earth's crust that runs like a scar just south of the Black Sea. This fault is constantly releasing immense pressure, its violent tremors repeatedly reshaping the landscape and, in these tragic moments, acting as a brutal archaeological tool. The specific finds at Izmit were a chronological collage of empires. Workers clearing debris found themselves staring into vast Byzantine cisterns that had supplied water to a forgotten city. They uncovered the fragmented torso of a Hellenistic statue, its marble form smoothed by centuries underground, and they traced the outlines of sturdy Ottoman foundations that had, in their time, been laid directly over the Roman ruins. Each artifact represented a different capital era, a different chapter of human ambition suddenly exposed by the same seismic shock. How does living in a seismically active region shape a culture's relationship with its own past? It creates a profound awareness that history is not something distant and separate, but a physical, tangible presence lying just beneath the pavement, ready to re-emerge without warning. This legacy, written in stone and shaken loose by the earth, compels us to look even further east, to a civilization whose ancient capitals were so vast they lie buried beneath modern megacities. The deadliest earthquake in human history struck Shaanxi province in 1556. It was a cataclysm of almost unimaginable scale, claiming hundreds of thousands of lives and flattening entire counties. Yet from this profound loss emerged a strange and unexpected gift. Deep fissures tore open the earth, and farmers tending their shattered fields found themselves staring not at simple soil, but at the ghostly outlines of a buried metropolis. They pulled ornate glazed pottery from the cracks and stumbled over massive, intricately carved foundation stones. The earthquake had, with terrible force, revealed the lost capital of the Tang Dynasty, Chang'an, lying directly beneath the modern city of Xi'an. This was not just any ancient city. It was once the largest and most advanced urban center on the planet. a glittering hub of the Silk Road where cultures and technologies from across the known world converged. As Chinese archaeologist Dr. Lin Mei explains, we knew the Tang capital was here in theory, but the earthquake gave us a map. It showed us the precise, magnificent layout of its grand avenues and administrative centers, as if the earth itself was drawing the lines for us. The seismic shaking acted like a giant, chaotic sieve, displacing the overlying sediment to expose the city's very skeleton. Researchers could suddenly trace the paths of sophisticated drainage systems that rival modern engineering. They found the clear foundations of vast marketplaces, the very places where Persian merchants would have traded with Chinese officials, and they uncovered remnants of the sprawling imperial palace, a center of power whose scale had been lost to legend. The technological marvels were breathtaking. The tremors revealed advanced metallurgy workshops with evidence of steel production techniques that would not be matched in Europe for centuries. They uncovered tangible proof of international trade in the form of foreign coins, glassware from the Middle East, and sculptures depicting Central Asian camels. This was not an isolated kingdom, but a truly cosmopolitan empire. What can the resilience of these ancient urban plans teach modern city planners in earthquake-prone zones? The unearthing of Chang'an reveals a blueprint of ancient ingenuity, a sophisticated understanding of both commerce and community that was literally built to last. This theme of brilliant urban design, suddenly illuminated by disaster, resonates powerfully across continents as we now turn to the Americas. The 1985 Mexico City earthquake tore through the city with devastating force, leveling entire hospitals and apartment blocks. Yet in the heart of the city, as crews cleared the wreckage of a modern office building, their shovels struck not more concrete, but something entirely different, the immense carved stone head of a serpent. They had stumbled directly upon the sacred heart of the Aztec Empire, the Templo Mayor of Tenochtitlan. This was the great capital built on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, a marvel of engineering with canals, floating gardens, and towering pyramids that was later systematically buried by Spanish conquistadors who constructed their own colonial city directly over its ruins. As anthropologist Dr. Eduardo Matos Moctezuma reflected, the earthquake was a tragedy, but it gave back to the Mexican people a part of their soul, a connection to the Aztec world we thought was lost forever. The mechanism was the same violent process of liquefaction, where the soft, waterlogged soil beneath the city turned to slurry, destabilizing modern foundations and churning up the ancient stonework that had been hidden for centuries. The discoveries were staggering. Beyond the massive serpent heads, workers uncovered entire ceremonial platforms, intricately carved altars dedicated to the gods of rain and war, and chilling sacrificial stones that spoke to the complex spiritual life of the Aztecs. They found thousands of artifacts, from delicate obsidian knives and jade masks to the bones of eagles and jaguars, offerings that rewrote our understanding of Aztec ritual and daily commerce. This single seismic event sparked a decades-long archaeological project that continues to this day, unpeeling layer after layer of the buried city. How does the physical re-emergence of a suppressed indigenous history impact a nation's cultural identity? It forges a tangible, undeniable link to a past that colonization tried to erase, forcing a powerful reconciliation with a legacy that was always there, just beneath the surface. This revelation in Mexico City proves that the past is never truly buried, a concept that extends beyond historical capitals into the realm of pure legend. There is a moment when legend solidifies into stone, when the stories told for generations are suddenly proven true by the violent shifting of the earth. The 1960 Agadir earthquake in Morocco was one such moment. As the city lay in ruins, the tremors tore open the coastline, exposing the long-buried foundations and pottery shards of the ancient port of Massa. For centuries, Massa was a name in old texts, a place many scholars believed was more fable than fact. The earthquake provided the undeniable physical evidence, turning a maritime myth into a historical site. This event highlights the incredibly thin line between myth and history. As classicist Dr. Helena Worth explains, a legend is often a memory waiting for proof, and an earthquake can be the key that unlocks it. The ground does not care for our categories of fact and fiction. It simply reveals what is there, forcing us to reconsider the tales we dismissed as fantasy. Consider the legendary lost city of the Caesars in Patagonia, a fabled metropolis of gold and marble said to have been founded by Spanish explorers. Many have searched for it in vain, but its location remains one of South America's great mysteries. The active tectonic forces of the Andes Mountains, constantly grinding and reshaping the landscape, could one day provide the answer. Following major quakes in the region, geological surveys using ground-penetrating radar have occasionally identified startlingly straight lines and geometric shapes buried under glacial sediment, forms that do not match any natural geology. These anomalies perfectly match the descriptions of grand plazas and fortified walls from the old legends. This is how seismic activity blurs the line between folklore and factual history, forcing a profound re-evaluation. What if the stories of El Dorado, the Golden City, or Shangri-La, the hidden Himalayan paradise, are not pure inventions? What if they are distorted memories of real, advanced capitals that were lost to time, not in some impenetrable jungle, but buried directly beneath modern cities that were built over them centuries later, simply waiting for the right tremor to bring them back into the light? The power of earthquakes to make myth tangible fundamentally changes our approach to studying the past, pushing us to look at ancient stories not as fairy tales, but as potential records of real places. This leads us directly to the sophisticated tools that allow us to see these hidden worlds without waiting for a disaster to strike. The 2009 earthquake in L'Aquila, Italy, left a historic city in ruins, but it also created an unprecedented opportunity. As engineers assessed the damage to centuries-old buildings, a team of researchers deployed a silent fleet of drones. Their LiDAR scanners fired millions of laser pulses at the shaken ground, and the resulting data revealed something far older than the medieval damage: the ghostly grid of the Roman city of Amitanum lying directly beneath the town square. This moment marked a fundamental shift in our relationship with these hidden worlds. Technology now allows us to transform tragedy into a detailed map, exploring the subterranean city without ever lifting a shovel. Geophysicist Dr. Anna Petrova explains that today we do not just wait for the Earth to break open, we use the aftermath to see through it, to map the hidden city without moving a single stone. These tools work in powerful synergy with the seismic event itself. The violent shaking disrupts and loosens the upper layers of soil and rubble, which paradoxically makes it easier for sensitive instruments to detect the distinct signatures of much older, deeper structures. LiDAR works by measuring the time it takes for laser pulses to bounce back from the ground, creating a precise, three-dimensional map of surface variations that can reveal the faint outlines of buried walls and roads. Another crucial technology, seismic refraction tomography, uses sound waves to create a picture of the subsurface. It is like giving the Earth an ultrasound, sending vibrations into the ground and reading the echoes that return from different layers of rock and ruin. This is complemented by magnetometers, which can detect subtle disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field caused by buried hearths, kilns, or metal artifacts. All of this data is then fed into sophisticated software that weaves it together into an immersive three-dimensional model. a digital resurrection of a lost urban landscape. This technological synergy not only accelerates the pace of discovery, it also serves as a form of preservation. A site exposed by a quake is incredibly vulnerable, often at risk of being hastily reburied by reconstruction or looted before it can be properly studied. These non-invasive methods allow archaeologists to record everything in meticulous detail, preserving the site digitally even if it must be physically covered once more. How will future advancements in artificial intelligence and even more sensitive remote sensing further revolutionize this field? We are approaching an era where we may be able to peer deep into the ground from the air, identifying entire buried city plans without a single tremor. This powerful marriage of ancient geological force and cutting-edge technology provides us with an incredible lens on the past, a responsibility that forces us to ask difficult questions. Who does this rediscovered history truly belong to, and how do we balance the pursuit of knowledge with the respect for the communities, both ancient and modern, that are connected to these long-buried stones? The ground in Kathmandu had barely stopped shaking in 2015 when a new fracture appeared, this one not in the earth but in the community itself. The powerful earthquake that damaged so much of the modern city had also torn open the ground around the historic Yerba square, exposing the foundations of ancient Hindu temples unseen for centuries. The immediate instinct was to dig, to reclaim every carved stone and forgotten relic, but a more cautious voice emerged, asking a difficult question. Do we expose this fragile history now, or do we protect it by reburying it for the future? As archaeologist Dr. Rajendra Sewell observed, an earthquake gives us a gift, but it is a fragile one. Do we unwrap it fully or protect it for future generations who may have better tools? This is the profound ethical dilemma that follows every seismic revelation. The desire for knowledge clashes directly with the duty of preservation. On one side are the archaeologists who see a narrow window to document and understand a lost chapter of history. On the other are conservators and community leaders who understand that excavation is itself a destructive process and that exposing these fragile sites can be a death sentence. The moment ancient wood and brick are exposed to air and monsoon rains, they begin to decay at an accelerated rate. An intricately carved wooden beam, preserved for centuries in the stable, dark environment of the soil, can warp and crack beyond repair in just a few years. The various stakeholders each have a valid claim. The local community, for whom these temples are a living part of their spiritual heritage, often advocates for immediate reconstruction to restore their place of worship. The national government must balance this cultural need with the urgent priorities of public safety and the potential economic boost from tourism. International bodies like UNESCO provide guidelines for World Heritage Sites, but the final, agonizing decision is almost always local. There is also the ever-present threat of looting. An exposed site is an open invitation to treasure hunters who can strip a location of its most valuable artifacts in a single night, destroying their context and erasing their story forever. This forces a careful and often heartbreaking cost-benefit analysis. Is the knowledge we gain from a rapid excavation worth the potential irreversible loss of the object itself? How do we balance our burning curiosity with our profound responsibility as temporary custodians of the past? The ethical tightrope walked after every quake reminds us that discovery is only the first step. The true challenge lies in stewardship, in listening to the whispers from the ground without causing them to fade away forever. These stones are not just relics, they are the physical anchors of human memory, and their sudden reappearance forces us to confront the living, breathing connection between a people and their past. The dust had not yet settled over the Iranian city of Bam when the scale of the paradox became clear. In 2003, an earthquake killed over 26,000 people, leveling the modern city into a tomb of concrete and grief. Yet from that unimaginable loss, a silhouette emerged against the sky, a shape locals had almost forgotten. The quake's violence had shaken away the debris and more recent constructions that had slowly been eroding the ancient citadel of Arg-e, revealing the world's largest adobe fortress in stunning, heartbreaking detail. One survivor, her voice a quiet echo of the collective trauma, expressed the impossible duality. She said, "We lost our homes and loved ones, but we found our history rising from the dust." It is a comfort and a wound. This is the essence of bittersweet archaeology, a field where profound cultural gain is forever linked to devastating human loss. The earthquake that destroyed the modern city inadvertently preserved the ancient one. The collapse of newer buildings, which had been pressing down on the 2,000-year-old mud brick walls and causing gradual decay, actually removed that damaging weight. The seismic shock, for all its horror, effectively performed a brutal act of conservation. This forced a painful but vital conversation about the price of historical knowledge. In the aftermath, the global attention brought a surge of disaster tourism and renewed international aid. This influx of outsiders and capital provided a crucial lifeline for economic recovery, funding new excavations and restoration projects that employed local workers. Yet for many residents, this same attention felt like a violation, their profound personal tragedy becoming a spectacle for foreign eyes. Can the rediscovery of a glorious past truly aid in healing a shattered present? For the people of Bam, the citadel became a symbol of both their historical resilience and their contemporary suffering. The restored walls stand not just as a monument to a Silk Road capital, but as a permanent memorial to the lives lost in its reemergence. This complex interplay challenges our simplest definitions of progress, suggesting that sometimes a civilization must confront its deepest wounds to rediscover its oldest foundations. A broken plate can tell a more compelling story than a palace wall. Amid the rubble of the 2016 Amatrice earthquake in Italy, a collapsed modern cellar gave way to a perfectly preserved Roman kitchen from 2,000 years ago. There was no gold or treasure, just the intimate clutter of daily life, carbonized chickpeas still in a pot, and a simple ceramic plate that had cracked in a long-forgotten tremor. This is the profound power of microarchaeology, a field dedicated to these small, whispered stories. It focuses not on the grand monuments of emperors, but on the quiet evidence of how ordinary people lived, loved, and worried about their next meal. As conservator Dr. Isabella Conti explains, a broken plate from a quake tells us more about a family's last meal than a king's tomb tells us about his reign. These humble artifacts, shaken loose from their earthly tombs, are the true treasures. Coins dropped in a market and never recovered tell us about the flow of ancient commerce. A worn wooden doll speaks of a child at play. A stylus and a wax writing tablet, found in a collapsed Roman shop in London after a minor tremor, carried the shopping list of a person who lived when Britain was a distant province. These objects are frozen moments. In that same London layer, tremors revealed small, discreet Christian crosses carved into the wall of a home, evidence of the religion's quiet, personal spread among ordinary families long before it became the empire's official faith. Each find is a direct, emotional thread to an individual. Holding a Roman lamp, you are not just holding clay, you are holding the same light that illuminated a scholar's scroll or a mother's face as she checked on her sleeping children. The universal worries and joys embedded in these objects bridge the centuries. We recognize the same human concerns in a 2,000-year-old loan document as we would in a modern email. What will future civilizations, perhaps shaken loose by their own disasters, deduce about us from our own mundane artifacts? A cracked smartphone might tell them more about our daily anxieties and connections than any government monument ever could. These personal stories provide a poignant counterpoint to the grand narratives of empires, reminding us that history is not just about the people who ruled, but about the countless anonymous lives that built the world. This intimate connection to the past compels us to look forward, to ask how we can better protect these fragile time capsules before the next tremor strikes. The ruins of Roman Olisipo, exposed by the Great Lisbon Earthquake of 1755, held a secret within their broken stones. Amid the rubble of the modern city, investigators found walls that had fallen in a curious way. They discovered that the ancient builders had integrated flexible wooden frameworks right into their stone masonry, creating a skeleton that could sway and absorb the Earth's violent energy rather than fight it. This was not primitive construction, it was brilliant, adaptive engineering. We are now rediscovering a whole field of knowledge known as vernacular seismic architecture, the collective wisdom of building methods honed over centuries in the world's most tremor-prone regions. Engineering historian Dr. Carlos Ferreira clarifies a common misconception. We often think of earthquake-resistant design as a modern innovation, he says, but the Romans and Incas were absolute masters of it. They intuitively understood the need to use materials and structural forms that could dance with the shock, not resist it rigidly. The evidence is etched into the ruins themselves. In Lisbon, they used a special lime mortar that retained a degree of flexibility, allowing walls to move without shattering. Far across the ocean, beneath the streets of Cusco, earthquakes revealed the genius of Inca stonemasons. Their monumental structures feature trapezoidal-shaped doorways and windows, a design that inherently distributes seismic force more effectively than a rectangle, and massive stones cut with such precision that they lock together during a quake, the entire wall shifting as a single, resilient unit. The common thread in all these ancient cultures was their choice of foundation. They consistently sought out solid bedrock to anchor their most important structures, avoiding the unstable, liquefaction-prone soils that doom so many modern buildings. Why did we ever move away from these proven principles? The answer often lies in the industrialization of construction, where speed and cost sometimes overshadowed resilience. The tragic collapses of rigid modern concrete buildings right beside standing ancient ruins provide the most powerful, sobering lesson. How can we possibly reintegrate this forgotten wisdom into our own sprawling, often vulnerable, urban landscapes? The answer may lie in a new fusion of material science and historical insight, blending ancient forms with modern composites to create buildings that are both smart and resilient. The legacy of these ancient builders is not just in the stones they left behind, but in the timeless blueprint for survival they encoded within them. This notion of a resilient blueprint compels us to look beyond the stones to the very earth they rest upon, to the fundamental geological forces that dictate where civilizations could safely put down roots. A city's history is a layered cake of stone and soil. In London, minor tremors along forgotten fault lines have occasionally cut a clean slice through this deep chronology, revealing a stark vertical timeline of civilization. At the very bottom lies the dark, compacted clay of Roman Londinium, with its straight military roads and red tile roofs. Just above it rests the darker, organically rich soil of Saxon Lundenwic, a layer filled with the remnants of timber halls and handmade pottery. Then comes the chaotic jumble of medieval London, a stratum of wattle and daub, animal bones, and the soot from countless hearths. Finally, there is the modern city, a complex layer of concrete, steel, and plastic. Each earthquake acts like a geological knife, providing a single, shocking cross-section of this urban evolution. This is the scientific discipline of stratigraphy, which reads these layers like a stack of historical manuscripts. As geoarchaeologist Dr. Michael Jones explains, a city's history is not a single story but a stack of manuscripts, and an earthquake can force several pages to the surface at once. The analysis is meticulous. A thin, sudden layer of ash and charred wood tells a story of a catastrophic fire that swept through a neighborhood. A dramatic shift in pottery styles, from locally made courseware to imported, fine glazed ceramics, signals a new wave of trade or even conquest. Even the soil itself holds clues, its chemical composition changing with the rise of industrial pollution or the abandonment of farmland. This stratified record provides something incredibly rare, an absolute timeline. A Roman coin minted under a specific emperor found in a sealed layer gives a firm date for everything above and below it, allowing historians to calibrate other, less precise dating methods. By reading this layered debris, we can reconstruct not just what happened, but how quickly a city transformed. Did a new cultural influence arrive suddenly with an invading army, or did it seep in slowly over generations of trade? What does the relentless accumulation of these layers tell us about the inevitability of our own urban landscapes being one day buried? To understand a city's complex biography, you must first learn to read the pages that disasters have bookmarked for us. The Great Fire that followed the 1906 San Francisco earthquake did more than just destroy. It performed a brutal and totalizing archaeology. As the inferno scoured entire city blocks down to the bare earth, it peeled back the gilded age of a booming American metropolis to reveal the adobe and redwood foundations of the forgotten Mexican pueblo of Yerba. The flames burned away the Victorian facade and showed us the city's first incarnation, its adobe and redwood bones, as local historian Dr. Maria Lopez describes it. This was not a single layer of history being exposed, but a profound, multi-epochal revelation. In the smoldering ruins of what is now the financial district, reconstruction crews made astonishing finds. They uncovered the stone foundations of cantinas and trading posts from the Yerba era, their simple forms a stark contrast to the ornate ironwork they had replaced. Deeper still, beneath the adobe, workers hit upon vast mounds of ancient seashells, the accumulated refuse of thousands of years of Olone habitation. These shell middens were the archives of a thriving indigenous culture that had lived in harmony with the bay for millennia. Here, in a single cross-section of scorched earth, was the entire story of the peninsula, a timeline of conquest and habitation written in stone, clay, and shell. The discovery forced a sudden and uncomfortable reckoning with the city's origin story. The dominant narrative of American manifest destiny, of a city built from nothing by gold rush pioneers, was fundamentally challenged by the physical evidence of a deep, multicultural past. The modern boomtown was revealed not as a creation ex nihilo, but merely as the latest chapter, built directly atop the graves of its predecessors. How does a city reconcile its triumphant self-image with the inconvenient truth of the worlds it buried? The San Francisco example demonstrates that the most deeply hidden cities are not just made of physical ruins, but are constructed from the narratives we choose to tell ourselves. This case study proves that a single cataclysm can expose not only multiple historical epochs, but also the fragile nature of a community's own identity. A sinkhole yawned open in an Istanbul neighborhood after a minor tremor, and instead of a void, it revealed a cavernous space below. Locals peered down into the darkness, their flashlights illuminating a forest of marble columns rising from still, black water. This was not a ruin in the traditional sense, but a perfectly preserved Byzantine cistern, a cathedral dedicated not to faith, but to water, hidden for centuries directly beneath their feet. As expert in ancient engineering Dr. Yanis Lolos explains, water was the lifeblood of ancient metropolises. Their hidden networks, when exposed by quakes, show an understanding of hydrology that rivals our own. These subterranean worlds reveal the true engineering genius that powered history's greatest capitals. The system was a masterpiece of logistics and foresight. Aqueducts, some stretching over 100 miles, acted as the arteries, channeling fresh mountain water into the urban heart by the force of gravity alone. Once inside the city walls, the water flowed into vast, underground reservoirs like the Basilica cistern. These were the cisterns, the city's strategic water bank, designed to hold millions of gallons to withstand prolonged sieges or devastating droughts. The seismic shifting of ground often acts as a key to these hidden chambers. The same liquefaction process that destabilizes modern foundations can cause the land above a cistern to suddenly subside, or crack open the ancient, waterproof cement that has sealed it for a millennium. The construction techniques were remarkably resilient. Builders used a special volcanic ash concrete that actually cured and strengthened underwater, creating a virtually impermeable seal. They spanned these vast spaces with soaring, arched brick ceilings, a design that distributed the immense weight of the earth above, allowing the hollow chambers to survive centuries of pressure intact. Discovering one of these structures is like finding the beating heart of a forgotten city. It provides profound insights into ancient public health, revealing a society that understood the link between clean water and preventing disease. It speaks to incredible urban planning, a city administration thinking generations ahead, and it underscores the raw political power required to command the resources for such colossal projects. In an era of increasing climate uncertainty and water scarcity, what can these ancient solutions teach us? They stand as a timeless lesson in resilience, demonstrating that the survival of a city depends not just on what it builds upward, but on the profound, hidden infrastructures it maintains below. A shattered city can become a powerful economic engine. The violent tremors that level modern infrastructure can also unearth a unique form of capital, one built on ancient stones and the stories they hold. This creates a stark economic paradox where immediate financial ruin collides with the potential for long-term cultural wealth. The 1995 Kobe earthquake in Japan offers a profound case study. The disaster caused catastrophic damage, paralyzing a vital port city and devastating its modern economy. Yet, as rubble was cleared, workers uncovered the preserved foundations and artifacts of an early Edo period merchant district, a bustling hub of commerce that had been buried for centuries. The city faced a critical choice: rebury the past for speed or invest in its potential. They chose the latter, carefully developing the site into a heritage tourism attraction. This pivot introduced the principles of heritage economics to a landscape of disaster. As economist Dr. Ben Carter explains, a revealed ancient city can be an economic phoenix, rising from the ashes of disaster, but it requires careful management to benefit the local community. The initial costs are immense and immediate. A full archaeological excavation demands teams of specialists and can take years. Conservation is a perpetual financial commitment, protecting fragile exposed materials from the elements. Then comes the infrastructure for visitors, from museums and walkways to restrooms and parking, all requiring significant investment. Finally, there is the ongoing cost of security to protect the site from both accidental damage and intentional looting. Against these substantial expenses, the potential revenue streams begin to flow. Direct ticket sales from tourists form the foundation. International research grants from universities and institutions provide crucial funding for further study. The surrounding area often experiences a rise in property values. and new jobs are created not just at the site itself, but in the hospitality, food, and service sectors that support the influx of visitors. This complex equation can transform a tragic event into a catalyst for sustainable development. However, this path is fraught with ethical peril, often described as disaster capitalism, where the rush to monetize a disaster can sideline the very people it should help. The risk of commodifying culture is real, turning sacred history into a simple tourist commodity. There is a genuine danger that the financial benefits will be captured by outside investors and large corporations, while local residents, still grieving and rebuilding their lives, are priced out of their own neighborhoods and see only low-wage seasonal work. How can we ensure that the financial gains from these accidental discoveries are distributed equitably and used for lasting community good? The answer lies in governance that prioritizes local ownership and reinvests profits directly into public services, education, and housing. The ground may give up its secrets for free, but turning those secrets into a sustainable future requires wisdom, foresight, and an unwavering commitment to equity. This economic dimension forces us to see these discoveries not just as historical gifts, but as profound tests of our collective character. The ground beneath Jakarta is not just sinking, it is slowly dissolving. As this megacity pumps its aquifers dry to quench its thirst, the land subsides and the rising seas press in from the north. This slow-motion collapse is a preview of a new geological reality, one where climate change itself may become the ultimate archaeologist. The melting of continental ice sheets and the redistribution of ocean water are altering the very pressures on the planet's crust, a process known as glacial isostatic adjustment. Climate scientist Dr. Anya Sharma explains the profound implications. As the Earth's crust adjusts to the shifting weights of ice and water, she notes, we may see more frequent and powerful quakes in unexpected places, potentially acting as a global archaeological survey. The Earth, in its relentless rebalancing, could begin to crack open with new and startling frequency. This is not a distant hypothetical. The immense weight of ice that once blanketed places like Canada and Scandinavia during the last ice age pressed the land down, while the areas around the edges, like the Mediterranean, bulged upward. Now, as that ice melts and the weight lifts, the depressed areas are springing back and the bulges are subsiding. This global teeter-totter transmits stress deep into the tectonic plates, potentially reactivating ancient faults and triggering seismic events far from traditional boundaries. Cities built atop deep strata of history become the most likely stages for these future revelations. Lima, Peru, is a prime candidate, its modern sprawl sitting directly atop the monumental adobe pyramids of pre-Inca cultures like the Lima and the Weri. A major quake there could shear away a hillside to reveal a vast painted wall. Tokyo, a city perpetually rebuilding itself, rests upon the perfectly preserved wooden foundations and waste-filled moats of its Edo period predecessor, a world of shoguns and samurai sealed in a waterlogged time capsule. And in Cairo, the immense weight of the modern city has pressed down for centuries on the ruins of ancient Memphis, the first capital of a unified Egypt. A significant tremor could easily liquefy the soft Nile silt, causing a modern building to sink and exposing the colossal statues of Ramses II that are known to lie just beneath the surface. This projection forces a complete rethink of disaster preparedness. We must plan not only for search and rescue, but for cultural heritage recovery, developing an international protocol for rapid response archaeology. The first 72 hours after a quake are a race against time, not just for lives but for history. Teams would need to be on standby globally, equipped with satellite-linked ground-penetrating radar and three-dimensional scanners to digitally preserve any exposed structures before they are either looted or hastily reburied by emergency reconstruction. This forward-looking perspective transforms a historical phenomenon into an urgent contemporary issue, directly linking our planetary past to our environmental future. What hidden chapters of human history, currently lying dormant beneath the world's great capitals, will be revealed in the coming century by the combined forces of a changing climate and a restless Earth? The very ground we have built upon is preparing to tell its story. A stone wall emerging from cracked earth feels like a memory returning to an entire civilization. It is a validation of something we collectively sensed but could never prove, a story whispered through generations suddenly shouted from the ground itself. This profound psychological pull was perfectly captured in Istanbul during the construction of the Marmara subway tunnel. The massive digging operation acted like a man-made earthquake, and as the giant borers chewed through the earth, they struck not rock but the timbers of ancient ships. The site at Yenikapı revealed a lost Neolithic settlement and the world's largest collection of Byzantine vessels, a port that had been swallowed by the sea and forgotten. The discovery captivated the entire nation, with daily news reports and crowds gathering at the perimeter fences, not in protest but in quiet awe. They were witnessing their own deep history being physically unearthed. This triggers what cognitive psychologists call the aha moment, that sudden, exhilarating rush of insight when a puzzle piece clicks into place. Dr. Eva Rosenberg explains that finding a lost city satisfies a fundamental human need for connection to the past and the thrill of solving a great mystery. It makes history tangible. We are not just reading about the Byzantines, we are touching the waterlogged wood of a ship that sank 1,000 years ago, a vessel that carried a real sailor with his own fears and hopes. This connection provides a powerful antidote to the rootlessness of our modern, hypermobile world. In an era where people frequently move across countries and cultures, these subterranean discoveries offer an unshakable sense of continuity. They prove that a place has a long, unbroken biography, and by extension that we ourselves are part of a story much larger than our individual lives. This taps directly into the sublime, that mixture of terror and wonder we feel when confronted with something ancient and vast. Standing before the exposed wall of a 3,000-year-old city, we experience a humbling awe, a sense of our own smallness in the grand sweep of time. This intense psychological payoff is not just philosophical, it is immensely practical. It is the engine that drives public interest, which in turn secures the crucial funding and political will needed for lengthy, expensive archaeological work. Why does the image of that single stone wall resonate across cultures? Because it is a universal symbol of rediscovery, a promise that nothing is ever truly lost, only waiting for the right moment to return to the light. A homeowner in Athens stared into a fissure torn open by the 1999 earthquake, not at plumbing or bedrock, but at the painted plaster of a Minoan wall. His private property now held a priceless piece of national heritage, and a legal battle began that would shake the foundations of Greek law. This scenario forces a difficult and immediate question. When the past erupts onto your land, who does it truly belong to? The answer is not written in stone, but in a complex web of often contradictory international statutes. In countries like Greece, Italy, and Egypt, national patrimony laws are unequivocal. They state that any antiquity found in the ground, regardless of whose property it sits under, belongs to the state. This legal principle treats cultural heritage as a non-negotiable public good, a treasure that transcends individual ownership. Other nations, like the United Kingdom and some parts of the United States, operate under variations of treasure trove law, where a finder or landowner may be entitled to compensation, or even a share of the artifacts if they are declared a treasure. This clash of philosophies creates an ethical and legal minefield in the wake of a disaster. As cultural heritage lawyer Dr. James Thornton explains, an earthquake does not just shake the ground, it shakes the very foundations of property law, forcing a society to decide what value it places on its shared history. The legal tools employed are powerful and often contentious. Governments may invoke eminent domain, the right to seize private land for public use, but they must provide just compensation to the owner, a figure that is always hotly debated. Was the land worth its value as a building plot, or its new, incalculable value as an archaeological site? This process is further complicated by international conventions designed to prevent the illicit trafficking of cultural property, which can lock discovered artifacts in legal limbo, preventing their sale or export. The long-standing, heated debate over the Parthenon marbles, known also as the Elgin marbles, serves as a powerful parallel. That centuries-old dispute over ownership and cultural identity is simply a preview of the modern courtroom dramas that now unfold when a quake instantly creates a new archaeological treasure trove on private land. These cases pit a homeowner's right to their property against a nation's claim to its past, and the proceedings can drag on for years, draining finances and fostering deep resentment. How can legal systems possibly evolve to fairly balance a citizen's private property rights with the public's undeniable right to access its own cultural heritage? The resolution of these conflicts means that the final chapter of a city's rediscovery is no longer written only by historians, but by judges, lawyers, and international tribunals, adding a deeply modern layer of human conflict to the ancient stone. Lucia Bianchi stood amid the dust of El Aquila, her phone held steady as she filmed a mosaic floor that had not seen light in over 1,000 years. Her words echoed the sentiment of an entire community. It was our city, our history lying broken in the street. We could not just wait, we had to become its guardians. In that moment of crisis, Lucia and her neighbors transformed from survivors into citizen archaeologists, a grassroots movement of cultural first responders. This is the powerful application of citizen science to the field of archaeology, where ordinary people become the initial, crucial line of defense for a rediscovered past. Their methods are simple, accessible, and profoundly effective. They use their smartphones to create a visual archive, photographing every artifact and its exact location before it can be moved or looted. They form community watch groups, taking shifts to guard exposed sites through the night, their presence alone deterring treasure hunters, and they harness the collective knowledge of the crowd, posting images and details on social media to quickly crowdsource identifications from historians and enthusiasts around the world. This process effectively democratizes archaeology, shifting it from a secluded academic discipline to a communal act of salvage and memory. To empower these efforts, experts have developed simple protocols that anyone can follow. The most important rule is to look but do not touch. Moving an artifact severs its connection to its location, erasing vital context about its age and purpose. Instead, citizens are taught to take multiple photographs from different angles, including a common object like a coin for scale, and to use their phone's GPS to mark the precise coordinates. They learn to make detailed notes about the soil layer and what was found nearby. This bottom-up approach often proves faster and more culturally sensitive than waiting for overstretched official teams. The local community possesses an intimate knowledge that outsiders lack. They can identify which collapsed building was a recent addition and which wall felt ancient, guiding the initial assessment with an insider's precision. What does this surge in public participation reveal about our relationship with history? It signals a deep, universal desire to actively engage with and protect our shared heritage, to be more than just passive observers of the past. The rise of the citizen archaeologist represents a powerful fusion of modern technology and an ancient sense of civic duty, proving that the guardians of history are not always found in universities, but are often the very people living atop it. A volcano preserves a single, terrifying day for eternity, but an earthquake peels back the centuries. This distinction lies at the heart of nature's varied methods of archaeological revelation. While seismic shocks tear open the ground to show a city's entire biography, other natural forces act as different kinds of curators, each with a unique specialty. The slow retreat of water during a severe drought can expose lost underwater villages, their wooden posts and stone foundations emerging from the mud like a ghostly map. The relentless scouring of wind and water through erosion can gradually strip away a cliff face to reveal intricate dwellings carved into the rock, and a volcanic eruption, as in Pompeii, can freeze a city in a single, catastrophic moment under a blanket of ash. Natural historian Dr. Kenji Tanaka reflects on this diversity. Each natural force, fire, water, earth, and air, has its own way of curating the past for us. Earthquakes are the most dramatic editors, ripping open the Earth's cover to reveal multiple chapters at once. Each method comes with distinct advantages and limitations for the stories they tell. The hot volcanic ash that buried Pompeii provided unparalleled preservation, carbonizing bread left on tables and creating hollow spaces in the hardened rock that revealed the exact shapes of fallen bodies. This gives us an incredibly intimate, frozen snapshot of daily life. In contrast, an earthquake does not preserve a single moment, but instead exposes a deep, vertical cross-section of urban development. It shows us how a Roman market square was built over an Etruscan shrine, which itself was constructed over a Bronze Age settlement. This layered narrative, called stratigraphy, is the unique gift of seismic force. It is the difference between reading a single, perfectly preserved diary entry and reading an entire, messy, multi-volume history of a metropolis. This process is a powerful form of destructive creation, where the very forces that bring ruin also act as a brutal, unintentional mechanism for unveiling the past. So how does the specific mode of discovery shape the story we are able to tell? A city revealed by drought tells a story of climate change and shifting shorelines. A city preserved by a volcano tells a story of instantaneous disaster. But a city exposed by an earthquake tells the most complex story of all, a saga of continuous human adaptation, resilience, and the literal rebuilding of civilization layer by layer. This broader context makes the seismic revelations not just isolated events, but vital pieces in a global puzzle of human endurance. Someday soon, we may not need to wait for disaster to strike. The next frontier in this field is predictive archaeological modeling, a discipline where scientists use advanced algorithms to forecast the locations of hidden cities before the ground ever shakes. Data scientist Dr. Chloe Wu describes the process as building digital twins of ancient landscapes. By simulating seismic events on these models, we can identify the most probable locations for subsurface structures to become exposed. This is not science fiction, but a sophisticated fusion of big data, geology, and deep history. The models are fed by a vast array of information. They consume centuries of historical earthquake records, satellite imagery that reveals subtle soil and vegetation anomalies hinting at buried walls, and even digitized maps of ancient trade routes and urban growth patterns. This massive data convergence allows algorithms to pinpoint where a modern city's foundations are most likely to intersect with a forgotten capital's rooftops. This shifts the entire paradigm from reactive discovery to proactive prediction. The potential applications are profound. City planners could use these models to create heritage-sensitive zoning laws, preventing new construction from being built directly on top of the most invaluable archaeological sites. Insurance companies might adjust their risk assessments, and national governments could preemptively strengthen the protections around known but unexcavated historical districts. The most controversial application, however, lies in the concept of guided discovery. What if we could plan controlled microquakes, tiny, carefully calibrated tremors designed to safely nudge the Earth just enough to reveal what lies below without causing catastrophic damage? The technology for such precise, low-energy seismic triggering is still in its infancy, but the ethical questions it raises are immediate and deep. Does humanity have the right to intentionally manipulate the Earth's forces to satisfy our historical curiosity? The prospect of turning the planet into a controlled archaeological dig site opens a complex new chapter in our relationship with the past, one where we are no longer passive witnesses to revelation, but active participants in the unearthing. A glittering palace is not what the Earth usually gives up. The 2001 Gujarat earthquake in India tore through the modern landscape, and in its wake, the ground surrendered not gold or marble, but the crumbled, sun-baked remains of mud brick walls. These were the fragmented foundations of an Indus Valley civilization settlement, a reality far removed from the cinematic fantasy of a perfectly preserved city. This is the first and most crucial myth we must dismantle. The public imagination often paints a picture of a city buried whole, a frozen moment waiting to be opened like a time capsule. The truth, as science communicator Dr. Arjun Patel explains, is often messier and more fascinating than the myth. These are not pristine cities, but complex archaeological puzzles shaken out of order. Let us tackle the most persistent misconceptions head-on. The first false idea is that burial is a sudden, catastrophic event. While volcanoes like Vesuvius can encase a town in an instant, the submersion of most ancient capitals is a story of slow, relentless patience. A city is not swallowed in a day. It is a gradual process of abandonment, collapse, and the slow, silent work of wind and water depositing layers of silt over centuries. The second common myth is that every find is a treasure. For every golden mask, there are thousands of shattered potsherds, animal bones from ancient meals, and rusted lumps of metal that were once simple tools. These mundane objects are the true bedrock of archaeology, telling us what people ate, how they cooked, and what they traded far more eloquently than any king's jeweled scepter. And the third misconception is that a revealed city represents a single, pure historical period. The reality is a chaotic jumble. The same Gujarat quake exposed a vertical slice of time where Indus Valley pottery shards lay mixed with later medieval coins and the foundations of a colonial-era outpost, all churned together by the seismic force. How does correcting these myths change our perception? It shifts our wonder from a search for treasure to an appreciation for the intricate, layered story of human habitation. The real marvel is not a room full of gold, but the broken plate that shows us a family's last meal before their world, slowly or suddenly, came to an end. This clearer perspective is vital because it prepares us for the ultimate question these discoveries force us to confront. The ground has spoken to us through its tremors, from the forums of Rome to the shattered Citadel of Bam. A powerful pattern emerges from the dust, revealing that the Earth's most violent shudders are not merely agents of chaos but unexpected curators of our shared human story. These hidden cities, forced into the light during our moments of greatest tragedy, hold up a mirror to our own civilization. They remind us with undeniable force that our present world is built upon countless pasts, a physical accumulation of ambition, disaster, and renewal. Each layer of stone and soil holds profound lessons of resilience, of communities that rebuilt, of innovations born from necessity, and of the incredible human capacity to adapt and endure. This perspective challenges us to reframe disaster itself, to see it not as a final ending, but as a brutal, transformative beginning that forges a tangible connection across the centuries. Let the haunting image of ancient stones emerging from modern rubble inspire you to look deeper at the world around you. Question what lies beneath the surface of your own city, your own street, the very ground you stand upon. The next time the ground trembles, remember the paradoxical truth that it might not just be taking away. It could be giving back a priceless piece of our forgotten heritage, a story we desperately need to hear. If this exploration into the depths of history has captivated you, subscribe for more journeys into the unknown and share in the comments which hidden city you would most want to see revealed from beneath the earth.